Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Martha from Martha Is. Welcome to day, where are we? Day 5, day 6 of social distancing, working at home. It's not too bad. Again, I recognise I'm really in a really privileged position. So yeah, it's not too bad. Mr. AB and I took a walk yesterday to our local park and it was so busy. And people were just not social distancing at all. Like, I ended up basically leaping into the mud on multiple occasions to try and stay a good distance away from people. But then, like, there was one point where we got stuck behind two women who were walking quite slowly and we were trying to maintain our distance. And then suddenly people were coming right up behind me to overtake me. And I wanted to be like, what is wrong with you? So basically what was supposed to be a relatively relaxing Sunday walk in the park just left me feeling really stressed. So I'm not going to do that anymore. Just going to try and do a walk around the block and whatever. God, I don't get it. I don't understand people who don't understand what's happening. But anyway, I'm going to stop because I'm sounding very panicked and I don't want you to feel panicked, because that's what we're getting at the moment. There's a lot of kind of panicked, stressful news, everyday news briefings from Boris Johnson, all those kinds of things. So we are going to depart from the coronavirus conversation and talk about books. So today is going to be part 1 of, I would say, 2, maybe 3, probably 3 videos talking about the books that I have acquired in March. So I'm filming this today, I think it's the 23rd, so I'm filming this on the 23rd of March, and I've just got like stacks and stacks of books around me that I have purchased, been on a bit of a binge. I think, as I said in my last video, my response to the C word, which we're not talking about, is just to keep buy books and just keep buying books and buy books for other people, buy books for myself. I'm not broke. Luckily I got paid on Wednesday, so it's fine. But anyway, let's move on because I'm wittering and we've got lots of books to talk about. So for part 1, this video, what I'm going to focus on is actually what's happened most recently, which was the London Bookshop crawl that I did with some of my friends from Instagram. So it wasn't the official London Bookshop crawl, which I think took place in February. We kind of just did our own one. And it was such a lovely day, genuinely such a lovely day. So I met up with, it was supposed to be quite a big one, but obviously with coronavirus, a lot of people started dropping out because they were a bit concerned about travelling to London, which is fair enough. So it was me, Eve, Emma and Joe, and we had a lovely brunch in Marylebone to start with. And then we went to Oxfam, an Oxfam shop on Marylebone High Street, and I didn't buy anything there, but certainly Eve did really well at that Oxfam. She found like a beautiful hardback edition of a book that had pretty much only just been published. She found the Sarah Waters Fingersmith, the edition that is like a specific cover edition that she's been hunting for weeks. So she did very well. But yes, I didn't buy anything there. So we went to Oxfam and then we went to Daunt Books. Unbelievably, despite having lived in London for several years, I have never been to Daunt Books. Yes, I know that's insane. So it was kind of overwhelming, I think, in the same way that I got a bit overwhelmed the first time I went to Mr. B's Emporium in Bath, where I just kind of didn't really know where to start. And what I find really interesting about Daunt Books is that they have a whole fiction and non-fiction section, but then they have the bulk of the shop is taken up with all of the books are organised by country, which I thought was really cool. So I clearly, once hopefully all of this madness is over and I can get back out again, I need to go back and do like a proper hunt for my Read the World challenge. The only hiccup I think is that everything's kind of mixed in together. So you have like travel guides to the country, you have books that are set in the country, and you have authors from the country, whereas I am going for authors from the country. So that made it a bit harder, which is why I didn't really get very far while I was there. But I did buy some books, which I know is what you're really interested in. I'm sorry it's taken me nearly 5 minutes to show you the first book. So in Daunt Books, I purchased this one. I don't even know how you say it. Jiyoung born 1982. So this has been a definite Instagram buy, never heard of it, and then it just started popping up everywhere. So the blurb is, Kim Jiyoung is a girl born to a mother whose in-laws wanted a boy. Kim Jiyoung is a sister made to share a room while her brother gets one of his own. Kim Jiyoung is a daughter whose father blames her when she is harassed late at night. Asshole. Kim Jiyoung is a model employee who gets overlooked for promotion. Kim Jiyoung is a wife who gives up her career and independence for a life of domesticity. Kim Jiyoung has started acting strangely. Kim Jiyoung is depressed. Kim Jiyoung is mad. Kim Jiyoung is her own woman. Kim Jiyoung is every woman. That sounds really interesting. And they did another, something that they've done with books like Convenience Store Women and Queenie, where I think you can get different colours, different colour covers. So very clever publishers clocking on to kind of how much we love colour and different covers. Speaking of colours and different covers, so I read Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo in, I want to say, January. I had the hardback. I did not love the hardback cover. And then they released the paperback cover, I think last month. And it is beautiful. And I basically spent all of that time since it came out telling myself, do not buy the paperback. You do not need the paperback. You already have the very expensive hardback. You do not need the paperback. What did I do? I bought the paperback. But look at it. It's so pretty. So I have no regrets. And now I will give away the hardback to someone who really wants it, who hasn't read it. It frees up some space. The hardback is bigger. So really everyone wins in this situation. And just look at it. Just look at it. It's so pretty. Yeah, let's move on. So that was Daunt. We then went to, we went all the way over to Brick Lane. I've never been to Brick Lane before, which is very exciting. And then we went down, we wanted to go to Pages of Cheshire Street, which is a bookshop I've heard really great things about. I think I already followed them on Instagram, and they are particularly good for authors, women authors, non-binary authors, trans, like all, you know, kind of lesser known authors, and they were shut, so that was rubbish. And I believe they have now decided to properly shut, not just because of COVID, but also because of the rents in that area. They're looking for new premises, so that is disappointing. But they do have a sister shop called Pages of Hackney, which I've never been to, so I might try and order from them while we're on lockdown, whatever. Come on, Martha, get on with it. So the next shop we visited was the Brick Lane Bookshop, which is a really lovely little indie that I liked very much. So I bought 4 books from there. The first one I bought was this one, Mr. Loverban, also by Bernadine Evaristo. And this one is actually signed. So yeah, I've heard very good things about this one, and like I said, I really enjoyed Girl, Woman, Other, so I'm definitely up for reading some of her backlist. The next one I got from there is Tell Me How It Ends by Valeria Luiselli. So this is one I already had on my kind of wish list. So Valeria Luiselli is a Mexican author. She wrote a book called Lost Children Archive, which I also have but haven't read, which is really around the whole kind of immigration situation, particularly between Mexico and the US. And as you might know, I'm a co-host of Do the Work Book Club, and our first book was The Unknown Americans, which is all about immigration to the US from Central America. So this one was one of the ones we had as kind of like extra reading if you want to. So I've heard good things, and it is very short, so that's always a good thing. Next one I bought from the Brick Lane Bookshop was 5, the Untold Stories of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper. This has been one that's been really doing the rounds on Bookstagram that everyone is totally obsessed with. So again, peer pressure, but it does sound absolutely fascinating. So it is essentially a history book about, what it says on the tin, the 5 women who were killed by Jack the Ripper. And I think what's really important about this is it is telling their stories. So it isn't about Jack the Ripper, because that is what the narrative has always been, is that, you know, Jack the Ripper is the famous, almost the iconic serial killer, and we don't talk about the women that he actually killed, other than I think, you know, the pervasive narrative is that they were all prostitutes, and I think that's also not true. And even if they were, they also don't deserve to be killed and deserve to have their own stories told. So so this book is doing that, so I look forward to reading that. And then one that I picked up entirely on impulse. I think I had seen it somewhere before, like it was familiar to me. So this one is Sorry I'm Late, I Didn't Want to Come, which is basically the conversation I have in my head as an introvert in a lot of social situations, being like, oh, hi everyone, I wish I wasn't here. So I thought this one could be quite interesting, and yes, it's definitely relatable. So the next bookshop that we went to was Libreria. Again, this is another one that I hadn't been to, and I loved it. It's so kind of quirky and artistic and like just really beautiful kind of walking in. And it was interesting in that it didn't really seem to have clear kind of sections, as it were. I mean, there was a kids section, and then there would be books that were grouped together that were kind of related to each other, but beyond that it wasn't kind of structured in the way that, you know, a mainstream high street bookshop would be. So you kind of like finding stuff sort of as you went along. And yeah, it was really beautiful. And there was also it looks a lot bigger than it is because there's a mirror right at the end of it, and we only discovered that. I hadn't realised that. We only discovered it when Eve nearly walked into herself and actually nearly apologised to herself for walking into herself. And one of the things that I really loved is that they had a couple of curated collections. So in like this kind of perspex, sort of bright pink kind of box, was a collection of books that were curated and several recommended by Bernadine Evaristo. It's becoming a bit of a theme. So naturally I saw that and was like, yes, give them to me. So two of the ones I picked up from that section was this one, Blacklisted, which I think I have heard of before, I think when it was first published in hardback. So this is taking a panoramic look at global black history and contemporary culture. This book investigates the ways in which black communities and individuals have been represented, oppressed, mimicked, celebrated and othered. Part autobiographical musing, part pop culture vivisection, it's a comprehensive attempt to make sense of blackness from the vantage point of the hilarious and insightful psyche of Jeffrey Burke. Sorry if I've said that wrong. Yeah, so I think that looks really interesting. And yes, Bernadine Evaristo calls it inventive, refreshing and humorous, which is probably why she's recommended it. So I look forward to reading that. I mean, I say this every time, guys. I literally have no idea when it will happen, but I do genuinely look forward to reading it. And then there's this one, Independence by Sarah Ladipo Manyika. And this is a novel. In the early 60s, Teo Ajayi sails to England from Nigeria to take up a scholarship at Oxford University. There he discovers a whole generation high on visions of a new and better world. He meets Vanessa Richardson, the beautiful daughter of a former colonial officer. Their story, which spans 4 decades, is a bittersweet tale of a brave but doomed affair and the universal desire to fall truly, madly and deeply in love. And Bernadine says this is a beautiful and ambitious novel. So, there you go. They also had a section curated by Roxane Gay, which I was very tempted by. A couple of them I already owned. I can't remember what they were. There was one which I did seriously consider picking up, which was The Wedding Party. But when I looked on Goodreads, it said it was number 3 in a series, and I couldn't tell whether it was one of those, like, you don't have to have read the ones before it. I kind of thought, like, why would she recommend it if, in that kind of, like, curator collection, if you do need to have read the first 2. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't buy it. And then the last book I bought from Libreria was Woman at Point Zero by Nawal El Saadawi, who is an Egyptian author. So this what I will use for Read the World. As she is a very well-known and prolific Egyptian author. She's written, you know, a number of books. I think this one was one that I really recognised, so maybe this is one of her more famous ones. So begins Firdausi's story, leading to her grimy Cairo prison cell where she welcomes her death sentence as a relief from her pain. Born to a peasant family, Firdaus suffers a childhood of cruelty and neglect. Her family ignore her passion for education, and on leaving school she is forced to marry a much older man. Following her escapes from violent relationships, she meets Sharifa, who leads her into a life of prostitution. Desperate and alone, she takes drastic action. Saadawi's classic novel, a searing indictment of society's brutal treatment of women, continues to resonate today and has been an inspiration to countless people across the world. So it's very good. So after that, I think we'd lost Emma and Joe by that point. I think they'd gone home. So it was just me and Eve, and we decided to hightail it over to Waterstones in Piccadilly in the vain hope that we would be able to get some sort of drink or cocktail, but then we were too late because it was a Sunday and the cafe had closed. But I still managed to find some time to buy some books. So I spotted this one first, Death is Hard Work by Khalid Khalifa. And he is a Syrian author, and this is about Syria. So this was another one that I thought, oh, okay, yes, I'll have this for Read the World. But I really thought the blurb sounded just interesting. At a hospital in Damascus, Syria, Abdel Latif's final wish is to be buried in the family plot near Aleppo, just a 2-hour drive away. Bulbul, his youngest son, persuades his estranged brother and sister to accompany him and their father's body to the ancestral village. But Syria is a war zone, and the trials that confront the family on their journey will have enormous consequences for them all. Death is Hard Work is a tale of 3 people embarking on an absurd quest, an unforgettable journey into a contemporary heart of darkness. Oh, bollocks. Sorry, guys. My husband's just come home and he forgot his keys. Sorry about that. Husband is let in. Where did I get to? Yes, Death is Hard Work, did that. So the next one I bought in Waterstones was Against Memoir by Michelle T. Now this is one that I think I had seen previously because I am familiar with it's an indie publisher and other stories, and I've seen their stuff before. I bought some stuff from them, so I think I saw it there. And yeah, I think this looked really interesting. So I'll read you the blurb. Michelle T is our exuberant guide to the hard times and wild creativity of queer and misfit life in America by way of Scum Manifesto author Valeria Solanas, the lesbian motorbike gang Hags, a trans protest camp, and a teenage goths hustling for tips as an ice creamery. Unsparing but unwaveringly kind, Against Memoir solidifies T's place as one of the leading queer writers of our time. So I thought that looked really interesting. I also really like the cover. And then the final one I got from Waterstones was Good Talk by Mira Jacobs. So I have actually already talked about this because I pretty much started reading it immediately on the way home and have since finished it. So I talked about this in my last video, so I won't talk about it too much, but essentially it's a graphic memoir about Mira Jacobs' experience of being of Indian descent in America in a mixed race relationship with a mixed race child and trying to talk about race and how she experiences race and how she explains it to her son. But yes, I'll link my last video in the description box down below. I'll link all of these books in the description box down below and the bookshops as well, particularly in these times. If you can, afford to buy some books from your local indie bookshop, please do. Please help us kind of keep these bookshops alive in a time where they're not able to physically open. That's it. Like I said, there's definitely going to have to be other videos because I have got some massive stacks that I did not get to in this video. So thank you very much for watching. I will be back again soon with more book haul videos. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you've read any of these and you liked them. If you didn't like them, don't tell me, because I'd like to be kept in blissful ignorance that I'm going to love all of these books. If you, like me, have been panic buying books, tell me what you've been buying. I'd be really interested to know. And I will see you again soon for another video. Bye!